Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's series, The Leadership Crisis. An important question: why good employees don't always become great leaders? And today we want to look at it: how confidence becomes controversial. Let's think about it for a moment. Your best salesperson just closed the deal or the biggest deal of the year. Your most talented engineer just solved the problem that had been stuck for months. The This is an individual who never misses a deadline, always exceeds expectations. Their obvious choice for promotion. So you promote them and they become the manager. And the moment they become the manager, things starts to falling apart. The team starts disengaging. The person who once your top performer was is now drowning. And they are micromanaging, they're stressed, they're frustrated, and the people they are supposed to lead are quietly updating their resume. This happens in a lot of organization and it's something that happens everywhere. It's not just limited to one continent, one region, or one specific industry. It is not personal failure as well. It's not a personal failure for that individual. It's more of a systematic failure of how we identify, promote, and then develop leaders. Today, I want you to walk with me and explore the evidence based leadership, career growth, and workplace transformation. And today, we are going to talk about why good employees don't always become great leaders. And what is more important is how can we fix this problem? The reality check, if we do, is that we keep taking our best technical people, the one who would either excel at doing something, and we give them these titles, that bigger desk, and a round of applause. And then we leave them alone to figure it out, the rest on their own. And this is what the researchers call promotion trap. The key skill that make them exceptional before, the drive, the focus, the personal accountability, or the ability to just get things done, is now often become that very skill that will bring them down, that work against them as a manager. So it has to be very important to remember that because great management is not always about focusing on yourself, it is about getting the best out of people around you. And most organizations often overlook it. So there was very interesting research from Australian HR Institute that was recently released, and it showed that the organization are investing heavily in technical skill, but they're really falling short when it comes to developing the human skill that are needed, more like those soft skills. And in fact, only 50% of Australian employers plan to invest in their training budget in leadership and management development this year. And this is a very recent survey. So if we sit with this research and this evidence, then we can really see that leadership is critical to organization success. We know that. We know that people don't naturally become great leaders just because they got some great promotions. And yet we are systematically underinvesting in the very important aspect which determines whether the teams within an organization are going to thrive or struggle. And this is not new. There is something called the Peter Principle, which was first introduced in 1969 with the idea that people rise to their level of incompetence. And we all have heard that. And in 2026, here we are, and we're still looking at that with the 15% of investment in developing soft skills, or what we say leadership skills. And I want you to understand here that it's not something that, oh, what can we do about it? It is entirely avoidable. The only thing is, how can we understand that this one investment can become my competitive leverage or advantage, and massive advantage, not just any advantage. So the first problem is we promote for the wrong reason. I mean, we have to really understand that. 82% of workers would quit because of a bad manager. And this is a statistics. It's actual research. So a promotion should never be rewarded for past performances. It should always be considered as a decision about future fit. And that's very, very important. And yet we see over and over that individual who take risk, we think they are more capable, so we promote them. Uh, though this is valuable, I'm not going to say that risk takers should not be promoted. It's valuable, but it's more a technical skill, which then, of course, leads to a lot more toxicity in leadership. These individuals may be willing to take decisions with potential long-term consequences for others if it ensures that the business will success. But this is what they have always been evaluated on. So there was an interesting survey done by Good Hire, and according to the survey, 82% of workers would quit their job because of a bad manager. So as I had shared initially, that if that happens, then it basically leads to another problem, which is that we as an organization, we assume leadership skills will develop naturally. And if you put someone in a setting and give them just some sort of direction, it will just stop motivating others, and the team will start getting inspired and they will reach their objective. We also involve interpersonal skills like communication, collaboration. We're hearing about it. But what really requires in any organization is not to assume. And importantly is to have the leaders a very important skill, which we call humility. Leader must retain the same will to learn, and they should carry it over as if they were entry-level employees, right? So when top performers are promoted without a proper management training, then they are very unprepared to handle any challenges that will come when they are leading the team. And that's why I said it's very important that you have the humility as a leader to learn as an entry level employee, bring that humbleness into your style. And this can avoid that struggle of motivating and engaging your team members or other employees. And it also helps in uplifting the morale of the team and the performance. One other important thing that I want to mention that is a problem that we don't really look at it as a problem is that new managers by default will start doing instead of leading. And there's a very big difference between a manager and a leader. So when a new manager starts to struggle to delegate, they they take the work back. So what they're really doing in reality is that micromanaging, and they're not intentionally doing it, but that comes how they have been groomed. It comes from that management background. So the team then is going to start getting disengaged, and good people quietly start updating their resume. They start looking, they wait for the right time to hand in their resignation, and when the time comes, they hand it over, and it's too late for an organization to repair because the damage is already done. And we call this in research a micromanagement, a pattern where managers focus on controlling more of an employee behavior and performance rather than managing their growth. And then this becomes more supercritical because people are now more supercritical of their superiors, which hinders a collaboration among making employees feeling valued towards their peers or even contributing. I'll explain one real world example here, a case study of Microsoft. And we often had seen that the management that was done by Bill Gates was more of like authoritative. But when Satya Nadella came in, it was just a transformation, right? And this is very important to pay attention to because he became a CEO of Microsoft in 2014. It was the time when the company was already struggling. The growth had become stagnant, and the culture was described very toxic. And it was losing ground to competitors out there, the others that were in the industry. It was an old culture that was working with a very fixed mindset, the belief that you either have a talent or you don't. And showing any vulnerability or admitting mistake was a sign of a weakness and a failure. So what he did when he stepped in, Nadella stepped in on the platform or on the stage, he didn't change the strategy. What he just really changed was the culture. And he introduced something uh, of a concept called growth mindset. So he told his leaders that we need to be learners, we need to be more curious, and we need to be willing to fail. And he wrote a book called Hit Refresh, where he talked about how leadership is not about having all the answers. It is more about creating conditions where the people can find the answers. And I will include this that a lot of the time I've also, as a professor, seen in my uh, students being a kindergarten student or a professional that is going for second degree or designation. And I've seen them that failure is not an option. And I keep telling them, I want you to fail. And it comes as a shock. And I do tell them, I want you to fail. I want you to make mistake. And it's not to kind of bring them down. It's more of to show them that if you fail, then you can really see where you're going wrong so that you can grow. You can apply the lesson that you've learned and take a strategic action moving forward. So here it's also very important to understand that we need to look at diversity and inclusion. It's not about, I always say it's not about who is in the room, but it is about who are you giving a chance to dance on the floor and not just sit on the table. Who are you giving a chance to be heard in the room? And with that, the Microsoft entire culture shifted to proving yourself to who's the smarter person in the room, to a culture where you would say, well, I don't know. And that would be like, okay, that's a strength, that's not a weakness. And the outcome was that Microsoft market's value increased over $1 trillion. But most importantly, that doesn't increase just because the stocks went up, and more it will increase because there was employee engagement that soared in the company, and the company became a place where people wanted to work again. So there are a few lessons that I want to leave you with. Lesson number one is, please ensure that leadership is not about being right. Make sure that it is always introduced, that it is about creating the conditions where others can succeed. Lesson number two, culture is not soft. It's the very big and the hardest driver of performance, being of your organization or your teams or individuals. Lesson number three, the leaders are learners. So they model the behavior they want to see in others. And as this is a series of my Beyond Blueprint foundation, I want you to please focus on how can you fix this? How can we move beyond this initial blueprint that we have of our organization that is very traditional in practices and promoting people? And how do we come up with a print that goes above and beyond and introduce a structure? So here, I will leave you with 4 practical steps. The first one is, please promote for potential, not just for performance. Stop rewarding that past performances with the management title. Start evaluating whether someone has the capacity to lead, and look at it in like future fit. What you want to look for is a history of success in different circumstances, varied circumstances, the wealth of knowledge this individual is bringing, the potential for growth that this individual has. What is their internal motivation and what's their cultural fit? How their ability align with your organization's values and mission. Step number 2 is then provide support, not just the title. So once the promotion is granted, it should never be a surprise. It should always be a part of very deliberate process of building a bench strength so that when the moment arrives, your people step into that role with confidence, not with apprehension. And this means that you provide them with all the experienced coaching, mentoring, and not just teaching. Coaching helps people to learn at their own pace in the context of their own role. And once you do that, then you move into step 3, which is shift from control to enablement. And this is a very important step. Stop micromanaging, but start enabling. The best leader will always focus on the bottom line and on the professional development of their team members and people within their organization. They give employees feedback and then praise them with their performance needs to exceed that expectation. They give employees more moral control over their work because when people work on tasks they have control over, they feel happier and more motivated. And once that shift is introduced, then we move on to step number 4, which is building a culture of learning. So create an environment where admitting I don't know is seen as a strength and not as a weakness, not as a failure. And this can be modeled through the behavior that we say as an organization. Yes, we want to see. Uh, we know that you're a learner and you're a curious individual, and we are willing to go with you despite that if you fail. So when you do this, you create a psychological safety, and a psychological safety is the foundation for high performance team. And that's one of the reasons Google is have been so successful. They really look at that psychological safety and follow that Maslow theory of hierarchy. So um, one question that I want to leave you is ask yourself as an organization, are you promoting people for the right reason, or are you setting your best performance up to fail? Also, the leadership crisis is real, and it's not something that we cannot solve because it's real. That means there is a solution to it, and we can start solving it by understanding that we are not going to reward leadership based on past performances. It is a responsibility that requires a new set of skills, and we are going to look at individuals that can become leaders for the future fit. So am I as an organization, am I as a manager or a leader or a business entrepreneur, am I investing in my team's development? Am I creating an environment where people can learn and grow? And am I modeling the behavior that I want to see? So here's one last reflection question. What is one thing you can do this week that you would like to take an initiative on to start developing a leader potential, not only in yourself, but in your team as well? If you really find this series valuable, I would like you to please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can, and please do share it with others in your organization that need to hear it. And if you want to take a deeper look, I'm always available. Send me a message and I'll be happy to conduct the clarity calls with your team members and provide them some insight. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next series.